Hello there, everyone. Okay, so first of all, I want to say thank you because I did stop playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes for quite a bit of time. Well, I say quite a bit of time, it was a month. For me, that was a long time, but in the grand scheme, it's barely a drop in the ocean. But thank you to everyone who reached out in the comments of the video when I said I was stopping playing, because it was nice to have a bit of love shown towards me, so thank you very much for that. But I'm back. Been back playing for about a month and a bit now, so yeah, I'm going to do a quick video that I was meaning to do before I took my break, and let me know what you think, folks. Okay, so this is the JML journey as I see it. Now, the reason why I'm showing it like this, I want to try and give newer players an idea of the characters that you're going to be gaining on the route to getting JML. Now, some of them aren't that great, but some of them are. And I can't help but think that in this current climate of Grand Arena, where every crystal counts with Grand Arena, it's important to have as many teams as you can. And for me, this is one of the biggest benefits of going down the JML route. So let's just talk about it. Let's just try and get our minds around it. So, as I've said here, the first steps, Phoenix. Everyone has to go through Phoenix, and I'm going to dip in and out of this menu if I can, although I've got to admit I think my daily engine's just cashed in, so just bear with me. But yeah, everyone has to go down this journey. So simply put, it is getting Emperor Palpatine and Grand Admiral Thrawn. So Palpatine, you don't need the Phoenix members. You can have any rebels whatsoever. But the thing is, with Grand Admiral Thrawn, you do need the Phoenix. So it makes sense to try and kill two birds with one stone. If you can get the rebels to the required, well, the Phoenix team to the required level, that they can get Grand Admiral Thrawn at 7 stars, you will easily get Emperor Palpatine at 7 stars. So that's the first step. It sounds hard, and when you do it for the first time, it will be, because you look at this. This was not easy getting Thrawn with these gear levels, but I did it. Everyone can do it. So that is what I'm saying to you all. Just be very focused on that Phoenix team to begin with. You get Hera and Ezra via the Cantina nodes, I should say. Kanan is in the Squad Arena store. Chopper is in the Cantina Battles store, and Zeb is in the Galactic War store. The reason why we go for Phoenix, as I say, is because we want to get Emperor Palpatine and Thrawn. Now, what I'm trying to do with this farming approach is not necessarily creating the best teams, but getting the most bang for your buck with the teams I'm building. So with this team, for instance, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, Grand Admiral Thrawn, early game especially, they are a very good trio. Throw in Mara Jade, who is going to become accelerated in what I think is a couple of months' time, then this is a very big 4. I mean, you could argue you don't need Darth Vader at this point, but Piet in there. You're going to need Piet to get Sith Eternal Emperor down the line, as well as Executor. So how I look at this is a very good Empire team. Piet is going to supercharge Darth Vader, and Mara Jade is going to supercharge Emperor Palpatine, and then Thrawn's just there topping it all off. So for me, this is a very good starter Empire team. I'm not going to say it's a great long-term team, because the idea is Piet would go and do his own thing with Imperial troopers, but early on, this is a very good starting point. Now, this one's a bit of a weird one, but I'm going to throw it in there. If you are starting right from scratch, I would advise around this time to also build your Geonosians up. You don't need it for JML, so it's a bit of a weird segue in a JML video, but I think it's important to just put this out there, that any guild that wants a player who's aspiring to grow, they will want people who take the Geonosians seriously, because Geos get watch shards. Watch shards, even now, are a good currency to be able to offer. So, yeah, I would at least consider slipping that into your farming schedule, if you like. Once you've got this team done, once you've got this team built, get some Geos farmed. I also want to add, by the way, what I've got my gear and relics at. So gears here, for instance, Hera's gear 8, I think. That's just how I did it. I've currently got Emperor Palpatine at Relic 7. I've got a very weak Mara Jade at Gear 8, I think. But it's essentially whatever you can afford to take them to. For instance, Darth Vader, Relic 7. You don't need to go straight there with him, but if you want to take him there, by all means. You will need him at Relic 3 for Jedi Knight Luke's event, and for that it's worth saying, oh yeah, Vader must be Relic 3. But Palpatine, Thrawn, they could be Gear 12, Gear 11. Mara Jade, I mean, to be honest, you will need her at Relic 5 if you want Starkiller one day. Piet, Relic 8 for Executor one day. But as far as just creating a team, just as a point of saying, right, when can I stop? What I would say is stop when the team is actually working and it's actually taking things down that you're struggling to defeat. So that's how I look at it. Build it up as you need it building up. And it's the same with this. You can do the Watt mission with Gear 11 Geos. My main account has got really poor Geos, but they're much better than they were. So yeah, I'm going to say you don't need Relics, you don't need Gear 12s. Gear 11 should do Geos for the Watt mission. And that way you get into a Darkside Geonosis guild, you're getting good gear. So for me, that's a big priority because it'll help you with every step after this. All right, so the first thing I've put down here is a Rebel team. I've called it Rebel Command, but it's a bit of a joke that because honestly, this team is not a team. It's essentially just the requirements for the CLS event, the Commander Luke Skywalker event. And if you get an option of picking 5, which I think you do at one point in it all, I can't remember for sure. But if you do get a choice to put all 5 in, you would do these 5. I just view this Stormtrooper Han's got the best lead out of the 5 of them. Maybe old Ben with evasion, but it's a bit niche. And yeah, I got through with a very weak Princess Leia. Even to this day, I'm thinking, should I just throw that on her? Yeah, I just haven't had the time. But yeah, you don't need a lot. I would advise... I've got Gear 9 here. I think I was just feeling a bit overzealous one day with Farm Boy Luke. You could do with Gear 9 on Stormtrooper Han. And I can't show it because I'm not a Gear 8, but there is one piece that gives health steal, and that's the reason why we take him up to 9. It just means that when you're going through the event, he will just recover a little bit of health every time he damages someone. So it's worth taking him to Gear 9 for that. But yeah, everyone else, I got through a reasonably low gear. I mean, think 3 Gear 9s, a Gear 8 and a Gear 7, so it's not that difficult. Next one, I've called it Wookie Catchers because essentially we're going to have to Chewbacca at this point. And I've put 5 bounty hunters here. These are the 5 that I think are relatively efficient, but there's a bit of mix and match in regards to this. So Bosk. Bosk is arguably the best bounty hunter in the game that isn't a Galactic Legend or a Galactic Legend requirement as such. I'm looking at you, Jabba. But yeah, Houndstooth. Arguably the best ship in the game still, or one of the best ships if not. So yeah, certainly worth getting Bosk. Then Django, similar to what I've just said about Bosk, if you farm Django, you're also farming Houndstooth. So it is worth going for Django just for that simple reason. Plus, as you can see here, he fits in 3 or 4 different factions, so he's very flexible. Then we've got Greef and the Mandalorian. Simple reason I put them in here, one, Greef and Bosk are a great duo. Essentially, the two of them can get a contract for the bounty hunters, click your fingers almost, if you mod them correctly anyway. And then the Mandalorian is just brilliant once he's at Gear 8 at minimum because of his payout, which gives you the Disintegrate ability, which allows you to instantly defeat a target enemy. So worth doing both of them just for being bounty hunters alone. But also both of them are requirements for Beskar Armor Mandalorian. So we're trying to tick off little requirements of other events as we're going along here. Now, this 5th one here, I consider a bit of a flex one as far as I put Boba Fett here, but there are a lot of bounty hunters that you could pick. I mean, if I just go to the bounty hunter tag for just a moment, depending on what you were thinking, if you wanted as a side farm, Dengar, for instance, is an Executor requirement. So if you're thinking about going for Executor at some point, that's a thought. Cad Bane is a Jedi Master Kenobi requirement. IG-88 is, again, Executor. Greedo, Relic 6 is a Jabba the Hutt requirement. Fennec at Relic 7 is a Jabba the Hutt requirement. Zam is a Lord Vader requirement at Relic 7. Embo, I believe, is Relic 5. Then, yeah, we've got Bush Leia. I think Bush Leia is Relic 5 for Jabba. Aura's Relic 6 for Jabba. Chrysanthemum's Relic 5. And then, yeah, these two are just their own thing. But the point being, all of these bounty hunters have a purpose. So you cannot go wrong farming 5 bounty hunters to Relic. So, yeah, by all means, just pop them down, you will not regret it. So, moving on. We've got the Golden Rod Catchers. Now, I went crazy on the Ewoks on this account anyway, so you don't need to go this far, but what I will say is they get heavily underestimated. I say this as often as I can for people who don't hear it at all, but Paplu is great. He has 25% speed whenever he doesn't have Taunt active, so if you make him fast enough, as I've tried to get him at 274, it can, especially in Grand Arena when you've got Chief Chirper with the Omicron, it does mean he's a very fast character. And because, if I just bring him up again, because of this Galvanize ability, you can grant Turn Meter to an ally. It means you can get your team going straight from the off. So they're a great 5v5 team. Now, as far as what you need for the Ewok event to get C-3PO, these 5 are the primary Ewoks as far as I wouldn't really advise anyone to go for Teebo or Ewok Scout. You can do it, but me personally, I've never found value in it. I think that Scout is maybe a nice niche option. Teebo trolls me. I always feel like I lose to Teebo teams, but honestly, that isn't a reason to go for him. It's just the fact that I tend to suck against Teebo. No one puts Teebo down, yet I struggle against it. And so that says more about me. But yeah, I just look at this and I think this is the team. Essentially, you only need Gear 11. You can do it with good mods. Gear 12 gives you the extra security plus the ability to put better mods on. But yeah, just I've got a guide. I'll put in the top right corner, the little card that will top right. But yeah, the C-3PO event, it isn't that tricky. It's just that it comes across as tricky at times. All right, so by that point, I've already said we're going to a guild, or you should be able to gain access to a guild that's doing Geonosis Dark Side. Because of that, you should definitely be in a place where you can get Han Solo. Because if you're in a guild that's doing Dark Side Geonosis, you'll be getting the Han Solo shards. So we're going to build Han Solo all the way up to Relic 6 minimum. 3PO and Chewie, Relic 5 minimum. CLS, Commander Luke Skywalker, even again, I haven't got him here because I'm working on this account right now, but it is a project that I will do at some point. Relic 3 for CLS, Relic 3 minimum for Chewbacca, although we want Relic 6 eventually, and then Relic 5 on C-3PO. At this point, I'm reeling off the journey guide, just to be clear. Now, I've called this one Blue Milk Yawn, and the reason I've said this is because at this point, it feels weird going for Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma is a great team. I love it. On my main account, which for some reason I didn't decide to do this video on my main account, where I've actually got very good rebels. I've got 340 speed Cara Dune, and I love that for the fact that she is so fast out the gate. That means your opponent's got taken a very fast tune to counter it. Add in the fact that Cal Katarn is one of the best characters that have come out in the last year or so, although he's striking a weird pose. Just for the fact that he can start the battle with a load of turn meter, then yeah, it's definitely worth going down this route. Cara is a Beskar Armor Mandalorian requirement, so that'd be 3 you'd be farming by going down this route. So we've got the Mandalorian, Grief, and now Cara. And you'd also be getting Cal Katarn for Star Killer, which is, if I'm counting right, we've done Mara Jade. So we've got 2 out of the 4 there. So then it's just a case of getting a team built, and this is the team. You can do deviations on it, but honestly, you may as well build this team up. Hoth, Rebel Scout, and POW are so easy to gear compared to these two. So if you can build Cara and Kyle up, you can certainly do Hoth, Rebel Scout, and POW. And Mon Mothma, I'm not going to lie, she's a bit of a pain to gear, but she is worth it. Relic 5, it's not too bad. Then, again, I didn't know what to pick here because the BB-8 event, which is the next step, is pretty simple. You don't need high requirements. I've got all Relic First Order on this account, so it's overkill here. But essentially, all you need is 5 First Order characters. So I've got Kylo, Hux, Sith Trooper, the other Kylo, and First Order Stormtrooper here. But honestly, you could pick any 5. So what I would say, you do want a leader. So Kylo Ren unmasked, General Hux, or Captain Phasma. I wouldn't advise Phasma. But if you decided to go for any of these 4, you wouldn't be wrong. It's an easy event, so just make sure you get them 7-star, gear 8, you'll get through it. If you want to take them further, because they are a good team for GA, by all means do it. I think this is arguably the best team you could go for, but yeah, don't feel you need to. Then the next step is getting Rey Jedi training. She is a JML requirement. So these are the requirements for that team. As you can see, I haven't got Veteran Smuggler Chewbacca built up at all, or Scav, to be fair. So yeah, it's not a bad farm, but it's one that takes you out your way a little bit. That's why I haven't gone for it yet on this account. But in reality, that event isn't too difficult either. You only need reasonably low gear on. I think it was Scav who had low gear on. So yeah, honestly, it's not too bad. So I put this here because I thought at this point I would advise you to flesh the Rey Jedi training team out a bit. I did that myself when I went for JML on my main. At this point, I'm really wishing I'd shown my main account. But yeah, we've got Rey, the Resistance Hero brothers, as we call them, Finn and Poe. I've put Holdo in here because Holdo is an interesting tank with Rey Jedi training, but you don't necessarily need to build her. Honestly, you could just have Rey and then just maybe put a few extra relics on Finn, BB-8. You've already got R2-D2 from doing the CLS event. And the only other one I'd suggest building from there is maybe... actually saying that you've got options at that point, maybe Resistance Trooper. Just basically make sure you've got a team of 5 that could count as a Resistance team that doesn't pull away from another team. So don't take 3PO, for instance, because he's wanted with the Rebels. Okay, now... we're on the last 2 for the actual JML farm. And these aren't teams now, these are more just finishing off requirements. So we've got Wampa and Hoda, we've got Rebel Officer Leia Organa, and we've got Captain Han Solo. And then finally, we've got Wedge, Biggs, Lando, and although I can't show them on here, we've got the Millennium Falcon, and we've got Wedge's X-Wing, I believe it is. So at this point, I'm just going to go off here and go to the journey guide, because I think this is where it does show a bit clearer. So, yep, I did miss a few tunes off, but I think anyway. Old Ben, we got him from CLS event, but you take him to Rally 5 for JML. Rey Jedi training who we've just got from as part of a farm. Take it to Rally 7. 3PO we got from the Ewoks, Rally 5. Mon Mothma we took time to farm with the Rebel Fighters, Rally 5. 3PO and Chewie we put with CLS, Rally 5. Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, I didn't actually show him, but we've got all the requirements passively for that. So if I just back out of here a second and go to solo journeys, again, it's a bit ironic I'm showing on this account, I'm getting a bit self-conscious now. But yeah, Wampa, we would have been building him up. You need him at Rally 3. All the requirements for this event are Rally 3. Wish I could show that. CLS, Rally 3. Chewie, 3PO, Rebel Officer Leia Organa, and Captain Han Solo, all Rally 3. Any capital ship, Han and Wedge, you just need them 7 stars, I believe. CLS and Hermit Yoda, again, all Rally 3. I'm going to just keep repeating it. Chewbacca, 3PO, Rolo, and Lando, Rally 3. Then you just need CLS for the penultimate tier, and you just need Darth Vader for the final tier. That is Relic 3. I've got Relic 7. So just, like it says there, Relic 3. So you get all them, you get JKL, you get Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. So getting to Relic 7, that one's done. R2-D2. We've spoke about doing R2-D2 as part of the Resistance team. So you've got a reason to do it. Take him up to Relic 7, he's part of that team. Han Solo, again, we said you'd need him for the, well, just building up the CLS team. Relic 6, why not? Chewbacca, took him up for CLS, sorry, for the JKL event. Again, Relic 6, may as well go all the way when you're starting at Relic 3. Rebel Y-Wing, I didn't put it on again, just a bit of an odd one as far as I can't actually show it on Squad Selector, but Rebel Y-Wing, you can do that very passively no matter what your actual farm is for ships. I'm going to say, well, I won't go into ship farming here because that's a whole separate thing, but honestly, Rebel Y-Wing, not that difficult to farm. You get it, I believe, on the same node as Grief, and or at least you did get it on Grief's node. So either way, it shouldn't be too bad. Actually, let me just check that. I don't want to give false information. There we go, yeah, it's still on the same node as Grief, so that's not a bad one, that. So yeah, and then after that, like I say, it's just these weird ones that we got left. So Princess Leia, we got her from CLS, so she goes to Relic 3. Yoda for JKL goes to Relic 5. Wedge, who we didn't actually need, but as I said at the end, he's one of these like last thing requirements. Take to Relic 3, Biggs to Relic 3, Lando to Relic 5. Again, very weird as far as these ones, I would say you don't really have a home for on their own. So it's why I would leave them till last. It's hard to say, all right, build a team around some of these. The best thing I could say, if I would just try and make something up on the spot, because I did actually think to myself then, what could you do? And the only thing I could say is with this, with the Wheezy Shipsy as I'm calling it, I mean, you could do something very simple, just be clear. You could put Rebel Officer Leia Organa, Captain Alon, just pool them in that team. You've got a team of 5 rebels. They won't do too much, but there'll be a relic team that people do have to take down with something. What you could, however, do, I'm going to have to turn off unique only here for a second, but what you could do, if we go to the rebels, you could do what I've done in the past on my main account, which is you've got Atbar and Princess Leia. You'd have to invest an Omicron in each of them, but the Omicron here is quite interesting. You gain tenacity up at the start of battle, gain turn meter whenever a buff expires. So yeah, there's a few interesting things there. Similarly, Princess Leia's got a reasonably interesting pair of an Omicron that pairs well with Atbar. So these two go well together here. And then if we just look at the rest of the rebels that we've got from that event, or at least the ones that we can use, I would say that you could possibly put Biggs and Wedge in there and Lando, and it would work. I mean, you could do Lando, you could do Rolo. I don't think it matters too much. The main reason I would be reluctant to stick with these 3 is that Atbar's Omicron, if you were to invest in it, it does say the 2 other, whenever an ally uses an ability that isn't an attack, all allies recover 5% health. So you're not going to get that much of that with this group that we're using here, because all of these abilities are attacks. So it's a bit of a waste, if you know what I mean. So what I could say instead, you could build up another rebel team. So the one that I've heard is great in 3v3 is this, because Stormtrooper Horn, who we got for Commander Luke Skywalker, draw fire. It's the only special ability, but it's a taunt. And you can go on a bit of a long set of turns, i.e. constantly getting turn meter because of how this interplays with Atbar and Leia. So I wouldn't advise against it. But as far as 5v5 goes, based on the stuff that we've actually farmed, it's not that easy to suggest, but I would say you could be looking at something like maybe... Again, this is probably where you're going out of your way a little bit. But you could build up Hera. Hera is a profundity requirement, and from what we hear, she is going to be useful when it comes to the new territory battles that are coming out. Again, we're talking beginner game player, talking about end game content here, so maybe take this with a pinch of salt, but talk about future-proofing your account. This ability isn't a direct attack, it's more of a call to assist. So again, that could be interesting. And this one here is just basically a revive. So both of these would trigger the calls to attack. And like I say, Hera has to go to Relic 5, I believe. So yeah, not a bad idea throwing her in. And if I was to suggest another one in that ilk, I think it might be Old Ben. It would be a bit overkill having a double tank in this group, but again, both of these abilities are passive as far as they don't actually attack. I mean, maybe Mind Tricks would count, I'm not too sure, but Devoted Protector is definitely just a taunt, you know, so I look at it and I think maybe that would be an okay 5. Personally, it's not what I would go for, you know, I wouldn't, let's just call this Atbar Leia just for my own remembering it, but honestly, that might be the best route as far as you're using the requirements, but you do have to go out your way a little bit. Atbar has got a great capital ship, even now with profundity in the game. Hera is a requirement for profundity, and you get an old Ben from doing your farm. So you might want to use him in the Jedi team at some point. We haven't even talked about Jedi for actually using with the Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. But yeah, old Ben could possibly go in that team just as an option. But in lieu of that, you could do it with Rebels. So that actually does bring me to a point. What is this Jedi team? And this is an important one. I didn't actually fill this bit out. So unfortunately, I haven't got JML on this account, as we can tell, but we'll throw him in there. Similarly, JKL you will have because you've done the event this way. Hermit Yoda, you will have him at Rally 5 from doing the event. So after that, who are you next to? Well, me personally, I feel like Jedi Knight Revan is almost mandatory in Jedi teams like this, so I would throw him in. To get Jedi Knight Revan, the journey guide will show this, but you need Bastila Shan, Jolie Bindo, you need Mission Vao or Veo, you need Zalbar, and you need T3M4. You don't need much gear on him either, although taking the 3 Jedi in that group to Rally isn't a bad idea in general. And then if we were to say one final option for this, it is a little bit tricky suggesting it, but considering you're going for Jedi Knight Revan, Jolie is not a bad shout. Just for the fact that, again, they pair quite nicely. You've got a revive in there with the Zeta, so there's a few nice things in there. So I would say that would be essentially the end game, as it were. I'll call that here. But again, maybe a bit of flexibility there. So I don't know what you guys think. I would like to get some feedback on this, but I believe that this is quite an interesting way of showing the journey from maybe, say, 500,000 GP. And by the time you get all the way down here, you've been putting gear, possibly relics on a lot of these tunes. I would like to think that you'd probably be a couple of million GP in, but you've got quite a few options in your roster. You would still be lacking a bit. There's no line there. I mean, if I turn on unique only again just for a moment, we're going to have quite a few things missing, like the 501st, General Skywalker. Droids, we haven't touched on droids there. Sith Empire, we haven't touched on that, or a JKR team as such. So yeah, there are a few things. Padme as well, we haven't touched on Padme. So there are a few things there that you would be diverting past. Another one here, Imperial Troopers. You could use Imperial Troopers to get R2-D2. So I'm going to stop, otherwise I'll keep going and just keep suggesting other teams. But yeah, there are things that you won't be getting through going this route, but I feel like this is the one that gives you a lot of options to move. Like I say, you start with something like this, you're getting 2 requirements done quite early on in Mara Jade, Admiral Piet. 4 of these are requirements for Sith Eternal Emperor as well, so that is a very good head start on that. If you said, you know what, I'm going to go for JML in the long run, but in the short term I could go for Sith Eternal Emperor. So things like this are worth keeping in mind. In my opinion, JML is the best first goal, and hopefully this demonstrates why I believe this. I mean, again, I could probably leave Geos out just because Geos are more to make sure that you're getting the gear and essentially the guild support to get further ahead faster. But everything else is essentially following the journey guide and just trying to create some loose teams around it. So essentially, we're starting on these 2. We're getting R2, we're getting BB-8, we're getting CLS, we're getting Rey Jedi Training, who I haven't got, doing a bit of work on BAM. We're doing a little bit of prep work on Starkiller, or at least as far as getting some stars on tunes. I'd say at the end go for JKR, or at least when you're getting close to JML. You go for Chewie, you go for C-3PO, you go for Hans Millennium Falcon, which for the record I didn't touch on as far as requirements, but you just need full bounty onto ships, so not too bad. And then last but not least, JKL. And it's not too bad. It seems a lot, but honestly it isn't too bad. I mean, Rolo, she is a bit of an awkward one to get as far as Hoth Rebel Assault is the territory battle you would need to earn shards from. But if you're capable of getting in a light side Geonosis guild, you'll be getting Get 2 anyway, so you might be able to just put a bit here and a bit there towards getting her. I think as well she's in Galactic Bounties, so there is that option as well. Alright, so I'm going to leave this here because my dogs decided to start barking, and yeah, it's about time that I shut my gob. But yeah, it's been interesting coming back, folks, because I didn't really plan to do videos on SWGOH immediately. I've had a little break. If you haven't already, please check out the Death Stranding videos I've been putting up on YouTube. Even if it isn't a game that you think will take your fancy, have a watch anyway for me. Just see what you think. And if anything, can you let me know what you think of me as a Let's Play type of guy, or someone who can guide you through a walkthrough? Because I've got another game in mind that I want to do once this series is over. So anyone who's just got a bit of spare time, you fancy watching a 20-minute clip of me just hiking across the remnants of the USA, please do. Anyway, other than that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will be on Twitch playing Galaxy of Heroes 3 times a week minimum, doing my GACs whenever they're on, and maybe the other spare week I'll be doing Conquest. So I'll be around, so catch me around there, folks. Until then, this has been Josh from JJ's Productions. Bye for now, everyone.